Are you a business owner or employee who needs to network but is terrified of walking into a room full of people you don't know? Are you afraid of being left out of conversations or being awkward in the conversations you do have? Your tour guide, Faithann, is here to walk alongside you through the networking terrain, offering tips and tricks to network with ease. She'll also bring insightful interviews with successful business owners who have used networking to expand their businesses. Building relationships is the heart of networking, and generosity is the cruise ship that will navigate you toward those important relationships for your business or career. Grab your sunscreen and suitcase. Faithann is ready. Are you?
Hello there, and welcome to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. I'm glad you found the show. Networking is providing opportunities for others that they would not have except for you, so that you have standing to ask for opportunities from people when you need them. How do we create opportunities for others, and how do we ask for those same opportunities? Well, that's what this podcast is all about. It's what I'm here for. Let's dive into episode 48. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. If this is your first time listening, thank you for choosing the Networkers Tour Guide podcast for your networking tips and tricks. And if you're returning, welcome back. This episode is a solo episode, and it's all around tact. It's a 4-letter word, tact, but it's so important when we network. I think about tact as the bottom floor in a building, and think about going into an elevator. So we start with tact, and then we go up to the second floor to rapport. Then we go up to the third floor to credibility and trust. And then we go up to the fourth floor. That's the referrals. That's your receiving referrals. And then finally, we have the fifth floor, the top floor, the profits you receive from the referrals that you've received due to the trust and credibility that you have generated, due to the rapport that you have initiated, due to the tact that you remembered at your networking meetings. I was trying to think of a way that I could explain tact in a positive way, but all of my definitions come up from a negative standpoint, what not to do, because I think the rapport building is what we do, and that's on the second floor. There are some things we should not be doing at our networking meetings. And I'm sorry, I know that it's always better to position things in the positive instead of the negative. I'm going to have to go negative for this bottom floor. The other thing about tact, just like you're in this elevator and you can't jump from the first floor, ground floor of a building to the fifth floor without going up to each floor. Even if you don't stop, you're still traveling up through each floor of the building. So you don't go in your elevator and press 5 and instantly you're on the fifth floor. You have to travel up through the building to get to the fifth floor, the profits. In the same way, we're not going to jump. We're not going to travel up from walking into our networking meeting to profits. We're going to have to go through each floor. Tact, rapport building, trust and credibility, referrals, profit. This episode is all around the tact. So let's remember a few important things about tact. And again, I'm going to struggle to put this in a positive way. But tact, in a nutshell, is not doing things that turn others off from the very, very beginning. Before they even get a chance to know you, you're doing a small thing that you don't even think twice about. And it's a huge, tactless thing to do. And it closes the door on opportunities, and you don't get to go up to the second floor or the third or the fourth or the fifth because you have closed off that person. And let's remember that our networking meetings, when we walk in, we're on. This is work. We're not walking into a room full of people, some of whom we know and some we don't know, like we're walking into our kitchen at home. It's work. You're on. Your filters need to be on. I'm not saying be inauthentic, but your filters need to be on. There are certain things we don't say or do at networking meetings. We want the second floor. We want the rapport building. Rapport building is I get a good feeling when I talk to Mary. Mary is a kind person. Mary is a person who's interested in me. Mary is a person who's interested in others. Mary is not selfish. That's all rapport. Can't get up to rapport if we're tactless. Let me give you a few tips to remain tactful, to keep your tact so that you can go up to that second floor and eventually get up to the fifth. Profit. We need to avoid making assumptions that do not serve us well. That is being tactful. Avoid making assumptions that do not serve us well. Here's an example. If two people walk in a meeting together and they are talking, and then it comes time for introductions, and then we just assume that those two people are together from the same company, and so we only let one of them talk. Tactless and a silly assumption that closes doors for you. If two people walk in to a meeting together and you get the feeling that they're together, let me tell you what's happened. Either they are together or there has been a tremendous amount of rapport built in a very short amount of time. From the time that the two people saw each other until the time they walked into the room, and you have no idea how long that's been. It could be 5 minutes or it could be 30 minutes. You have no idea. But there has been some true rapport built, because if it looks like they know each other and have known each other for 10 years, they've built some rapport, or it could be that they do know each other. But if you don't know, it is a silly assumption to think that they are together. And then as a result of that assumption, you only let one of them talk. You think that one of them can represent their business together and let one of them talk and don't let the other one. Two people that walk into a room together may or may not have known each other forever. They may have just met, and they're both just really, really good at building rapport. Let's assume that. Let's always assume that two people who walk into a room together don't know each other. Now, if it's a man and a woman and they're holding hands, of course, they know each other. But two women or two men or a man and a woman walking in together, expressing some really open body language, calm and comfortable, talking like they've known each other for a long time, doesn't necessarily mean they know each other. Another assumption in the same generality is to assume that they know each other, and so then you, even before the meeting starts, you're walking up to them and you're assuming that they both belong to the same business, just in a conversation, and then they have to correct your assumption. So tactful behavior is behavior that avoids others having to correct your assumptions. The less that people have to correct your assumptions, the more that first floor can get up. You can get up to that second floor of rapport because you're not stuck on the first floor, people having to correct your assumptions that you've made about them. There are some assumptions you will make and you'll have to be corrected. It's not a complete loss if someone has to correct your assumption. This one, though, now that you know, there's no excuse, friends, no excuse. Don't assume either way. Two people walk in together and they look like they've known each other. We don't know for sure. Avoiding this assumption will mean that when it comes time for either us to walk up to them and talk to them, we're going to be open and ask questions that don't close off the possibility that they've just met. And it also means, more importantly, I think, that if people are going around the room to introduce themselves, they both get a turn. If you're in the room, you need a turn to talk. Just a base practice. And if you are leading a networking meeting, and in your networking meeting, there is a portion where people stand up and introduce themselves, you offer every single person in the room the chance to talk. The only exception would be is if there's some prearrangement where you know that someone has no interest in talking. And even then, you need to frame it where it's known that the reason this person, Bob, has not had a chance to talk is not due to your assumptions. It's due to Bob's choice. And you would have to have some language around that that's tactful. And I don't know exactly what that would be because that's really never happened to me. But let's let everybody have a turn. Let's just assume everybody's there. They want to represent themselves. Now, it may be that they are with somebody, but still, they want to represent themselves. They are a complete different person. So even if two people are from XYZ carpet, they're both going to stand up and have a different flavor, a different sound, a different insight to bring to the room, even though they're both with the same carpet cleaning company. Secondly, tact means we're not using vulgar language in our open networking. You have a plethora of wonderful, beautiful, impactful words. The English language is full of words, or your native language, if it's not English that's being spoken in the room. There's so many words you can choose. No need to find vulgar ones. If you are in an open networking setting and you have a mix of people you know well and people you've never met, it's such an easy thing to tell yourself, no cussing, Faithann. At home, I'm going to cuss. In my networking meetings, I'm not going to cuss. Now, if a subset of a networking meeting, if you have a group of people within that networking meeting who all know each other very well, and they're going to stay after, and they're going to have a leadership meeting or something like that, you know them well and you understand that they're all comfortable with cussing, then cuss if you want. I mean, if a cuss word slips out, no big deal. In an open networking meeting with people you don't know well and people you do know well, just avoid it.
Hi, listeners. Are you someone who struggles to make a great first impression when you meet others? Faithann has put together her guide to help you make a great first impression no matter where you are. This quick guide gives you simple tips to leave a powerful first impression, the first step to relationship building. Go grab this free resource today by clicking on the impressions link in the show notes.
This one is huge for me, friends. This is huge. One of the things about industry exclusive groups that's very good and beneficial is we have seat exclusive. Your seat is protected. So you are the only XYZ in the room. You are the only plumber. You are the only insurance agent. Unless the chapter or the organization divides the insurance between like health insurance or life and property is one, but then commercial is another. Generally, you're the only person. Now, here comes to your meeting somebody who does what you do. It's tactless to immediately, as soon as you start talking to them, say, well, you can't talk about XYZ because I'm the XYZ in the group. Tactless. You'll never get up to that second floor. And let's say it's two life insurance agents. And this other life insurance agent is 2 months away from retiring. And he's attended this meeting because somebody invited him. And he thought, yeah, I'll go to support my friend Mary. Mary's been asking me for a long time to come to this meeting, and I've always put her off. And she knows I'm retiring in 2 months. But for some reason, she invited me because Mary's smart, and Mary knows that the realtor in her group is going to have a feature presentation. And even though she knows that there is a life insurance agent in the group, she knows that her life insurance agent, or this life insurance agent that she knows, is thinking about moving. So she says, come to my meeting. Well, I'm going to retire in 2 months and I'm moving. Oh, just come and check it out. I'd love to introduce you to a few people. But she's invited him because she knows that the realtor is going to have a chance to shine, and she's hoping to make an introduction to the realtor. So here comes the person who holds the life insurance seat. And we'll call Frank, the one who is visiting and is going to retire in 2 months. And we'll call the existing member who has the life insurance seat Bob. And Bob gets all upset and right away comes up to Frank and says, now, you can't talk about life insurance. Turns out Frank actually is also there to see if he might start building a relationship with the insurance guy in the group, because maybe he has some referrals when he retires. I mean, I don't know. And please, the people who know a lot about selling businesses and retirement and all that and what happens, maybe this isn't what happens. I don't know. But there could be a reason somebody's in a room that you don't know. And so maybe he's looking to slow down, and he's looking for another insurance agent that he might send his overflow business to. And now Bob has come up and, well, you can't talk about, I'm the life insurance seat. And so Frank says, well, not him. Silly, unnecessary, tactless behavior. I'm sorry, but this is tactless. And when you want to understand things about people, you can ask them questions and get a conversation going, and they will reveal things to you. So if Bob would have come up and said, I'm so glad you're here. It's so nice to meet you, Frank. Tell me about your business. Oh, I'm with such and such mutual. Okay, well, I'm with such and such, I don't know, another insurance company. Oh, okay. And then Frank reveals the purpose. He reveals his true purpose for being there. Yeah, Mary invited me, and she's been wanting me to come for a while, and I'm going to retire soon. I'm doing this for Mary. And now Bob's like, oh, he's going to retire. Now doesn't that conversation sound completely different? And if he just would have waited and he just would have been tactful and asked good questions, that would be revealed to him, and then he could proceed with rapport and maybe get up to that third floor of trust and credibility, and then referrals, and then profit. So it is a good idea. I mean, it is a good benefit to have the industry exclusive. Please do not cling to your seat so vigorously that you close opportunities for yourself because you make assumptions and you get very protective of other people. This doesn't mean that if that insurance agent has now attended your meeting 3 times, you don't go to somebody and say, hey guys, I have an issue with this. Of course you have an issue with that. I think the main idea is let's let people reveal their intentions, their interests, their motivations by tactfully asking them good questions. Let the flower open. Let it bloom. Then you're building rapport and you have more information to move forward. Okay, the last one. Now, certainly not the last of all the things that I've observed and experienced and maybe even sometimes done, but this will be a good way to wrap things up. Assume that a room full of people, mixed those you know well and those you've never seen, you're going to have a mutual acquaintance. The ones who you've never met before, assume you're going to have a mutual acquaintance. You just don't know yet who that is. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is if you've just had a terrible experience at the restaurant down the street and you walk in and you just start blasting the restaurant owner, it could be that the restaurant owner's son is right in front of you. You just never know. So we can talk about topics. Like I said at the beginning, we're on. This is work. So we want to be careful about extreme complaining, especially locally. Complaining about local businesses is a bad idea in an open networking meeting full of people that you know and don't know. You don't know these people you don't know. You have no idea the acquaintances that you guys share. So you could close a door so quickly if you start talking to a group. Maybe there's a group of 3 of you. There's one person you know very well, and then a person you've never met, and you meet and you start talking about your favorite restaurants. And then you go into this diatribe. Oh my gosh, you would not believe the experience I just had at Nina's Mexican restaurant. Oh, really? Tell me about it. And you just start blasting poor little Nina because you didn't have your chips in time or whatever it is. And turns out that third person is Nina's son. And you've stepped in it for no reason. Okay, there's a multitude of topics to talk about at a networking meeting. Let's talk about good things. And we can carefully, if we're asked direct questions, we can be tactful about it. If someone were to ask, I heard you and Bob just came from Nina's. How did you feel about that? I mean, how was your experience? And you're being asked by a stranger. I didn't care for it much, but I did like the fact that they XYZ. I mean, find something to say positive, and you just assume, okay, why are they asking that question? Maybe they have no connection with Nina's, and maybe they're looking to go there. But you don't know until you find that out. We're going to assume that's the owner's son you're talking to. Let's assume that and be safe and be careful, okay? And I know that it's harder to act this way in rooms and to be a little bit more guarded. It will pay off because people hold opportunities. They are opportunity vessels. And we don't want to miss out on our opportunities by saying something offhand and closing a door. We don't want to do that. A lot of times there's this quiet time right before the official meeting, or right before the meeting starts officially. There's like 5-10 minutes where it gets kind of quiet. And then there's a little bit of talk that 2 people are having next to each other. And they think that it's just them 2, but the whole room can hear because now the room's getting quiet. That's another thing. Be careful when you notice when the room starts to get quiet, and ask yourself, is this a for the whole room conversation, or is this just for me and Frank? And that can happen. I mean, it's okay to have a quiet conversation among a bunch of other people about something a little bit more sensitive. I wouldn't recommend that you spend a lot of time on that. That's a conversation for coffee with just 2 people. But if you're going to, hey, I've got to tell you this real quick. I want you to be careful because XYZ, or something pertinent that you need to tell somebody that you know well, and you're going to do it in the networking meeting, that's okay. Be listening for the quietness of the room because the speaker has said, hey, it's time to start. You do not want people to hear things that you think they're not going to hear. And this can be, again, where we start complaining about somebody or something, and turns out the person in the room is very closely associated with this thing that you're complaining about. And now, that's a door you close without ever even knowing it. Without ever even knowing you've closed the door. So those are my tips. Let's have some tact, and it has to do with how we speak. Let's have some tact at our networking meeting. Overall, we want to make everyone feel welcome. And I think if we go into our meetings trying to make everyone feel welcome, then we'll avoid these tactless assumptions and tactless speech. Okay? If your grandmother wouldn't appreciate the F word out of your mouth every other word, then neither is the elderly lady that's going to come in, and her name is Sue, and you've never met her. Assume she's like your grandmother. And let's choose better words, and let's not make assumptions about who they're associated with. And let's not have heavy complaining about a serious bad experience with a local business in mixed company, because somebody there is probably going to know the owner or the owner's mother or an employee there. I mean, you just never know, okay? And watch the quiet times. When the room gets quiet, make sure that the leftover tail end of what you say when everybody can hear you is still suitable for what everyone can hear. Now, if you are local to Oklahoma City and you're looking for some good places to network, maybe you've moved in from another town or another state, and you know that networking is a good way to promote your business. You're listening to this podcast and you find value in it. I want to invite you to check out Premium OKC Networking. This is my networking calendar of local Oklahoma City networking groups where if I could clone myself, I would go to every single one of these meetings. Within the platform, you have access to my calendar. Each event on the calendar says when and where they meet, the type of group they are, and what to expect. There's a discussion forum, and coming soon, and probably by the time this episode airs, learning courses. I'd love to have you in the platform, and you can find out more about that by clicking on the link in the show notes. Go and network, my friend, and remember the tact is the very first thing that leads to that rapport, which leads to trust and credibility, which leads to referrals, which finally leads to profits.
You've been listening to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast with Faithann Basore. Share this episode with a friend and be sure to come back next week for more networking tips and tricks from the Networkers Tour Guide.